how old were you when you realised I'm not into girls? Was it like a...
It was sort of like, look, it was like I would say grade 9.
Do you hate that question, by the way?
I don't actually, weirdly. I know a lot of gay guys do, but I don't. Because for me, it wasn't traumatic.
Right.
So it was actually kind of, I enjoyed it. It was kind of an interesting experience. I met this other guy in my class when I first got to Wesley in grade 8. His name was James, and we're still really good friends. And he was, I think, probably my first love.
Right.
Even though we never really discussed it, but we might now if he watches this. And we were just the same person, and he was the first person that kind of like wanted to laugh at this. Like I always had my best friend Ashley, but it was amazing meeting a guy that was just into all the same things as me, wanted to laugh. Like we made up backstories for all the teachers, and we used to be interested in what the maths teacher would be wearing each day, so we could laugh about it.
Right.
And we sort of kind of went through, I think we went through that realisation of that we were both gay at the same time, and so for me, I think it clicked in about grade 9, but I probably didn't. But I think James and I told each other in grade 11.
Right.
Yeah. So I was probably 16, and then I told everyone around the same. I didn't really tell people at school, but everyone knew. But I think this is a sign of the times. I graduated in 07, and no one, everyone knew. We didn't really discuss it, but everyone knew, and no one really had a problem with it.
Yeah,
I was.
That's unreal.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
And sure, there were a few people that bullied me, but probably no more than if I had curly hair or.
Yeah, right.
And if anything, I think the teachers maybe had more of a problem. There were a few teachers that possibly had more of a problem with it than the students.
Yeah, right.
Which I think
is the older generation.
So I told my parents when I was like 16, because I just started doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And I sort of didn't really talk about it for the first 6 months I was doing stand-up, and then I had a joke in my act about it, and they were coming to see the show that night.
Right.
And I was like, well, I have to tell them.
Oh, wow.
So I told them, and expecting some sort of scene. They're like, okay, cool. Do you want to eat before you go to the gig?
Oh, really? It literally went like that?
Yeah, they were so chilled about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is an incredible, I guess, ride for you to have with it, because it's not the case for a lot of other people.
It's not the case, and I know it's such a rare story, and I know how lucky I am, because I've got friends that, still don't speak to their parents when they told them they were gay, after they told them they were gay. And look, there were, I did have issues. I was once bashed up.
Really?
Yeah, by some homophobes.
Really?
That was after I'd left school. I was just walking through the city one night.
Wow.
Yeah.
It just still blows my mind that stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
Do you find that you do still feel things like that? Do you know when you're around people who don't accept you?
Sometimes, very rarely, also because I work in entertainment, so, everyone's gay.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's only if I'm not even in a regional town. I tour regionally all the time, and I don't have that many problems. I mean, I was famously chased out of a town, out of Colac. I'm sure I've told you that story.
No?
Yeah, I was chased out of... I did a gig in Colac in regional Victoria about 4 years ago, and I was hosting an anti-discrimination event, and 30 hood rats turned up to chase me from the gig.
Yes.
And then we turned it into an ABC documentary. And Reece Nicholson and I went back 2 years later.
Yes.
And we once again experienced homophobia there. And people just, people weren't educated. People saying weird things. Like a woman said to us, because we went back to interview the town and find out their thoughts, because the town was, after I was chased out of the town 2 years prior, it made all the media, and the town was kind of, I think, voted in the paper as the most homophobic town in Australia.
Right.
So when we went back to investigate, we wanted to get people's thoughts on the issue, and one woman said to us, well, is this a long-term thing for you guys? And we thought she meant stand-up, and I was like, oh, well, who knows? And she goes, no, being gay, do you think you will be when you're, 50? And I was like, well, yeah.
Yeah, isn't it incredible?
Yeah, sorry about it.
It's so, and I think that you nailed it in saying it, it's all about education too.
Totally.
Because a lot of people, there's no way there's more gay people now than, in the past, but it was never spoken about.
No.
People weren't openly gay, and so the older generations are like, oh, but everyone's so out now and so camp, and it's like, but it's more accepted now.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course it should be.
Yeah, and she wasn't nasty, she was just, she just had no idea.
Yeah, because one of my best mates, who is gay as well, when he told me, I said to my dad, I'm like, the boys are going to come down and stay. It opened up my world to just an incredible group of friends. Yeah. And they came and stayed with Dad, and when they left, Dad's like, oh, they're so fun, and said something about their choice. And I said, Dad, it's not a choice, you know. And I had to sit down, and this is when my friend was newly out, and I said, he would take a pill if it would make him straight, because obviously at the start it's not easy for everybody.
Absolutely.
Now he would never. But I said, that proves to you that if he wants to be straight, but he's not. Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
No, but still a lot of people don't know that.
And I would have, and I totally, you know, like, I mean, I probably knew from the second I could, you know, create my own thoughts. It was always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I didn't know how to register it until I guess I was an early teenager.